A Russian missile attack. That's the headline that you're probably seeing spread around all over the news. But the news is telling us one story, and we are looking to, the Pentagon, the authorities, the intelligence apparatus that exists in the United States to give us some clarity on exactly what's going on here. Because if the Russians attacked Poland, which is a NATO ally, right? They're sort of under the umbrella of protection of the United States. That's a pretty big deal. That kind of changes the whole equation, doesn't it? And we are here today with the skeptical hat on, as always. So whatever hat you're wearing, take it off, put on your skeptical hat. As usual, we always like to sort of question and start with a blank slate and say that everybody who is reporting on this is probably either in the dark, they don't know exactly what is going on, or they're intentionally malicious. They've got other things that they want to create, stories they want to shove down our gullets. And they've already done this before several times, okay? We have seen this movie. We talked about the Nord Stream pipeline explosion. Wonder how that happened. Oh, investigation. And they're going to get to the bottom of it. And Anthony Blinken and a Secretary of State for the United States government, they're going to investigate and tell us what happened. Never got the answers on that one. Similar thing happened with the Crimean bridge explosion. Oh, that's weird. A truck or something drives across the bridge. It blows up. And very conveniently, hard to sort of parse out who's responsible for what. And so nobody knows really what the heck is going on. Everybody understands that there are probably all sorts of nefarious actors with ulterior motives in this issue. And so we got to put our skeptical hat on. Now, all that being said, let's take a look at some of the stuff that has been surfacing on Twitter. This individual shared this video came from an individual saying that this could possibly be the explosion that took place in Poland. We're watching this, keeping an eye on the size of the crater. Looks like a tractor, looks like some sort of conveyance. And the video is going to walk us right up to the crater, evidently, that came from a Russian missile, allegedly. And that looks like it's pretty deep in there. Pretty big explosion. If that is in fact in Poland, if that is in fact a Russian missile, if that is in fact some sort of artillery or something that is a NATO, piece of equipment, yeah, that could be pretty problematic. And so a lot of people have a lot of questions about what exactly that is and what is happening here. So as usual, Americans turn to the news to get our bearing straight on sort of what's happening. And as is the case, Fox News was reporting breaking news. They said that a Russian missile evidently crossed the border and landed in Poland, killing 2 individuals.
Reporting on from Russia a short time ago. Per the AP, a senior U.S. intelligence official now says that those Russian missiles have crossed into NATO member Poland and killed 2 people.
Wow.
A Polish government spokesman did not immediately confirm this information, but said top leaders were holding an emergency meeting due to a, quote, crisis situation. So
that's pretty clear details. Senior U.S. official, emergency meetings, everybody's coming together. We've got some pretty interesting details. In fact, 2 people dead, and it's all sort of coming in to Fox News through the AP in real time.
We're trying to independently confirm this information, but that Russian missiles have crossed into Poland, killing 2 people.
Wow.
John, obviously we'll work to get more information on.
Everybody is going, what? That's interesting. Okay, this could be a big problem because as we've heard a lot from American politicians and NATO politicians and everybody around the world, if there is 1 inch, 1 incursion, 1 little hair that crosses the border into NATO allied territory, all bets are off. It's it. It's World War III. We're going to go and defend every single inch of stinking NATO territory, regardless of what the consequences may be, right? That's the red line. That's the hard line in the sand. And so now, doesn't sound good. Now, Fox News told us that this was a report that they, we're getting from the AP. We're going to check in with the AP. But first, let's see what CNN had to say about this, because there are questions about what the Polish are reporting, right? If you're in Poland and you got attacked, maybe you have some details that we don't know. CNN reports that Polish authorities confirmed that there were missiles that came in and killed some civilians or citizens in Poland. And of course, this is setting alarm bells off across the world.
We've had confirmation from Polish authorities of a very, very dramatic and potentially inflammatory moment in history, really, which is that 2 projectiles of some kind, rockets, missiles. We
Something.
don't know exactly
what.
We also critically don't know who fired them, but we do
don't know if it's
that
the
they
Russians
landed
either.
in Polish territory, very close to the border with Ukraine, in farmland, hitting a grain store and
it's
reportedly killing 2 Polish citizens or residents. Now, this is a very dramatic potential escalation, obviously, because Poland is a NATO country.
So not NATO equipment, farmland territory, evidently some grain, but it's still Polish citizens and it's Polish farmers. I mean, they're out there. They're just trying to support the food supply that we all need. And they are having a difficult time, of course, because they're getting exploded by missiles. Now, he says we don't really know if they're missiles, rockets, or who they came from or where they came from, but we do know it's in a very, very interesting spot right across the border, right into Polish territory.
There were ongoing cruise missile attacks being carried out in the west of Ukraine, close to Poland's border, at the time that these projectiles landed on Polish territory.
Now you can see the region here. You see Poland is sort of where my cursor is circling right here. And a lot of the conflict area is where you see the conflict area highlighted in yellow and in red.
It is conceivable that they are Russian missiles. It's equally conceivable at this stage that they could be the spent rockets of anti-aircraft missiles fired by Ukrainians, although that is somewhat less.
Oh, CNN is saying it could have been fired by Ukrainians. What? Let's rewind that.
It's equally conceivable at this stage that they could be the spent rockets of anti-aircraft missiles fired by Ukrainians, although that is somewhat less likely on a technical level. But this has automatically, effectively triggered a meeting of the equivalent of the National Security Council inside the Polish government, who are meeting now to decide how to react and what to say to this dramatic moment. There is, in the worst case scenario, from many people's perspective, a chance that the Poles might be inclined to apply to NATO for the all for one and one for all type support on a military level in this, in terms of.
So in other words, escalating this and sort of really pushing this towards more conflict rather than trying to decipher what has actually happened here. You know, was this an intentional act? Did they try to blow up something in Poland? Or is this an errant missile? Did a missile malfunction? Something from the Russians that was supposed to land in Ukraine didn't land in Ukraine? Is this something that the Ukrainians shot off and it went across the border? Who knows? But everybody is bracing for impact because of the regional predisposition for explosion.
Wanting to go for retaliation. I think that's extremely unlikely, but this is and will be seen as a very dramatic escalation, a spreading of the war outside of the borders of Russia and Ukraine.
So we don't know exactly what happened or how it happened or where it came from or who's responsible for what or whether the Russians did it or the Ukrainians did it, but it's not good, right? It seems like things are sort of expanding beyond the region. And that, of course, is a big problem for those of us who'd like to see de-escalations occur. So the AP is reporting that Russian missiles cross into Poland during a strike. This is updated just 8 minutes ago, written by John Leicester and James Laporta. You see here, Russia pounded Ukraine's energy facilities on Tuesday, biggest barrage of missiles yet, striking targets across the country, causing widespread blackouts. A senior U.S. intelligence official said missiles crossed into NATO member Poland and killed 2 people. A second person with the AP, said that apparent Russian missiles struck a site in Poland about 15 miles from the Ukrainian border. If confirmed, the NATO strike would mark the first time in the war that Russian weapons have come down in NATO territory. Now, the Russians responded. They denied at the Russian Defense Ministry. They said any strikes on targets near Ukrainian-Polish border, we're not behind them. And that looking at photos, they said, we have nothing to do with any of that. And those are not Russian weapons. A NATO official speaking on condition of anonymity said the alliance was looking into reports of a strike on Poland. The U.S. National Security Council said it was also checking into those reports. Polish government spokesman, somebody named Peter Mueller, confirmed that an explosion had killed 2 people and said some military units were put on alert while they investigated. Polish media is reporting the strike took place in an area where grain was drying. a village near Ukraine. The barrage also affected Moldova, very close nearby city. The missile strikes plunged much of Ukraine into darkness. They said we're going to survive everything. And of course, Zelensky was out speaking to his people. Now you can see this is what the region looks like, and the fighting just persists. Putin has not commented on the Russian retreat from Kherson and others. And of course, this is all breaking news, and we are still waiting to hear more about this. Now, in a minute, we're going to check in with the Pentagon because the media is reporting one thing, Fox News is reporting another thing, and they're all sort of, putting this together as it comes in. But we have an entire Department of Defense in this country that should be really capable of giving us some good answers. We'll check in with the Pentagon spokesman in a minute. But first, we've got to talk about, if we're on the brink of a nuclear annihilation, we have to talk about 4 Patriots. A food shortage could be coming any minute. Even in the United States, we have drought, inflation, thermonuclear global war, policies that are pushing America and our food supply to the brink. That's why survival food is now more important than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food ever. This is not ordinary food. Okay, we're talking about good for 25 years, super survival food, hand-packed right here in a family-owned facility in the United States, supporting 200 Americans. And when you order your supply, they come in compact, sturdy, water-resistant containers that stack easily. They've got different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners. All you can do is make these in about 20 minutes, boil water, simmer, and serve it. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert, get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including a 3-month survival kit, which we all know is very useful to have on hand. You get a famous guarantee a year after your order. Free shipping on anything $97 or more. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every order is donated to charities that support our veterans and their families. And so you can go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert, and get 10% off your order. It's 4patriots.com, code Robert. Thank you, everybody, for supporting our awesome sponsors. And so now we know the media has been very sort of on the top of this. They have reported a lot of details. Americans turn over to the Pentagon to see what the real story is. We've got a bunch of government officials who spend a lot of American dollars on a lot of military intelligence, so we'd expect to see some answers from the Pentagon. This is Pentagon spokesperson who is explaining that they really don't have much information to share with any of us.
So as I mentioned, right now, we are aware of the press reporting on this. We have no information at this time to corroborate those reports, but again, are taking them seriously and looking into them. And so I will make sure that we provide you with any updates as soon as we have them.
As soon as we have the updates, we'll let you know. The Pentagon brought together this emergency briefing. Of course, we don't see much of this guy, and he is now detailing exactly what's going on. First question from the media is, can you explain what happened with this Russian missile attack? But he didn't have anything to offer. But the media wasn't going to let that stand. They had a lot of additional questions. And you can see we've got several clips of him because they tried again and again. Here's the second time. Another person in the media says, okay, Mr. Pentagon spokesman, you are working at the DoD. You've got a lot of information. You should have answers for us. The only reason we're here, the only thing on anybody's mind is what happened with this Russian missile. Can you please tell us, sir?
Everybody is reporting based in reference to the U.S. intelligence. So U.S. intelligence has already disseminated the information that actually those missiles.
Is that a statement of fact, or are you asking a question?
No, I'm asking. I'm saying that isn't it interesting that the U.S. intelligence has and the U.S. military doesn't have?
Well, and I'm telling you as the Pentagon press secretary that I have no information to corroborate that and that we're looking into it. So we'll just leave it there until we can get more information. Let me go.
Yeah, so cram it, media jerkhead. Why are you even asking me these questions here? Don't you know who I am? I work in the Pentagon. And so the poor reporter, he's like, well, excuse me, sir. I know you say you don't have any information about what's going on here, but we got corroborating reports that confirm there's some weird stuff going on, and it's weird that they've got it and you don't have it. So what gives? And this spokesman's like, who do you think you're talking to, son? I gave you an answer, and you better take it and love it.
Or are you asking a question?
No, I'm asking. I'm saying that Isn't it interesting that the U.S. intelligence has and the U.S. military doesn't have?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm telling you as the Pentagon press secretary that I have no information to corroborate that and that we're looking into it. So we'll just leave it there.
Yeah,
until
leave
we
it
can
there.
get more information. Let me go.
Leave it there. Next question. Don't ask another question. Idiot. Okay. So that's very nice customer service there from our Pentagon. Just having, the guy's just asking some questions here. All right. But he didn't like it. So the media wants to try again. For the third time, the media says, hey, sir, you work at the Pentagon. The Pentagon is supposed to have information about what's going on between Russia, Poland, NATO, nuclear annihilation across the whole planet. Can you please give us some details?
Hi. So I know that you don't want to talk in hypotheticals, but the possibility.
She's a little nervous. Okay, she just watched that other guy get blasted. She just saw him say to him, "Shut your mouth. I'll let you know when there's more information." So this poor gal, she's like, "Okay, I'm going to try this again, but excuse me, sir. I know you really don't want to talk about this, so don't execute me or pull out your sidearm. But I'm going to ask you about the same thing."
Hi. So I know that you don't want to talk in hypotheticals, but the possibility of there having been either an errant or an intentional strike on NATO territory has been in the back of people's minds for a long time. Can you walk us through at least what steps the Pentagon goes through to try to verify whether or not, this is to try to verify the specifics of what's happening? Like, what is going on now?
What is going on?
As you try to get more clarity on whether you can or cannot corroborate that these strikes landed in Poland.
Why did you even come out here if you're just going to tell us you don't have any information? Third reporter, third time.
And also, is this going to change potentially the ask of what the United States makes at the contact group tomorrow at that meeting? Do you anticipate that this changes either the pressure on countries to pony up more military assistance or the rate at which that military assistance might need to come together?
Thanks, Karun. So as far as the contact group goes, I don't want to get ahead of the discussion or speculate, especially since we have no information at this point in time to corroborate the press reports regarding allegations of a Russian missile strike on Polish territory.
Now, why might they not want to corroborate Russian missile attacks? There have been some other conversations that the White House has been sort of walking back their never-ending, endless support for Ukraine. Blank checks, right? We heard from Milley. He's sort of reversing some course on that. They're trying to say, well, winter is coming and it doesn't look like things are going to settle anytime soon. So one reason that we had speculated that maybe they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline would be that the Ukrainians or the sort of the Western side doesn't want Europe to get a little bit squeamish when winter really comes upon them. We don't want to hear a bunch of citizens complaining that they're freezing to death and demanding to turn on the gas from Russia again. Like, that's ridiculous. So why don't we just blow up the pipeline so that there is no opportunity to turn the gas back on because there's no pipeline again? Perfect. Same thing, right? Blow up these little infrastructure places, sort of escalate the tension so that people get boxed in to certain positions so that there is no choice but to continue escalate. And we've heard from Zelensky, absolutely no rhyme or reason to any conversation about peace or settlement as long as Ukraine doesn't get everything that they want. So if there is, one contingent of the Biden administration that's saying, we really, really need to push for a resolution, the last thing that they might want is to come out and say the Russians bombed Poland, because that's only going to do the opposite. It's going to escalate the entire conflict. So the White House, right, the Pentagon might be very, very squeamish on this, and rightfully so, saying, hold on a minute, we don't want to go and just call this a Russian attack, because then what happens? Then we drag all of NATO back in. So while many people in the press are like, oh, Russia just attacked Poland, it's World War III, let's go. Other people, maybe, and maybe this gentleman, are saying, hey, hold on a minute, we're not confirming anything. Now, it could be because, it's true, or it could be because it's not true. We don't have any clue, which of course is why we always put our skeptical caps on.
In regards to your first question, anytime there's a situation, again, we have a variety of methods at our disposal in terms of verifying information, to include contacting allies and partners to gather information. And so, again, we're looking into these reports, and when we have more to provide, we'll be sure to do so.
When they've got more to provide, we don't have much details on really anything yet. Of course, it's all crashing in. And I'm not so sure that we're going to get much details anyways, I mean, truthfully, right? What happened with the Crimean bridge bombing? Do we have details on who exactly was behind that? No. Do we have any details on what happened with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline explosions? No. I mean, it's still under investigation, and I don't know if any flag has claimed responsibility for it. And they haven't given us confirmation one way or the other. But now that this is escalating, the standard line, of course, is being brought out to play. Pentagon spokesman is asked, hey, what if, though, the Russians did, in fact, attack Poland? No evidence of that, but what if they did, what would you do about this?
President Biden has said a few times that the U.S. will defend every inch of NATO territory. If these reports are true, what does that look like for the administration?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So, as I mentioned, we're looking into these reports, don't have any information to corroborate them at this time. So I don't want to speculate or get into hypotheticals. When it comes to our security commitments and Article 5, we've been crystal clear that we will defend every inch of NATO territory.
Which could be called into action. Okay, if this is an attack on somebody who, on Poland, which is a NATO member, that is a big problem. And of course, he's saying we'll step in and we'll support them if it happens. So we'll watch what the Pentagon has developing for us. If they release anything more, don't know. Of course, the State Department is the other half of this. The Biden State Department is asked about the alleged Russian missile attack in Poland and whether they have anything to offer. Of course, they don't.
All right, so let's just start with the breaking news, right? Poland, these missiles, what do you know? I realize that the Pentagon and the NSC have already said that you're looking for information. What can you tell us? Has the Secretary been involved in any calls? Anyone else?
So I don't have any calls from
Blinken.
the Secretary to read out and would echo what
Ned,
our
where's
colleagues
Ned?
at the White House have said on this as well, which is that we have seen these reports out of Poland and are working with the Polish government and our NATO partners to gather more information. We can't confirm the reports or any of the details at this time, but I can assure you we will determine what happened and what appropriate next steps would be. But I don't have anything additional to offer at this point.
Okay, so they're going to give us more information. I'm very skeptical about it. Now, I am empathetic to the idea that this just happened and you need some time to sort of craft a response and all of that. But don't you think that all of these geniuses over there at the DoD, wouldn't they have sort of a game? Don't they game all of this out? Don't they have like strategies for all of this? And they sort of, okay, what happens if Russia does this? Well, if they do that, then we'll do this and all this stuff. And they feel sort of discombobulated. The media is like 3 steps ahead of them. The Polish are confirming this. Yeah, there were a couple people killed. Does look like it's Russians. And our, government is still trying to muster up a response. We don't really know if we'll get much from them. But elsewhere, we have the congressional Democrats in the Senate who are responding to this. Chuck Schumer is asked about the Russian missiles allegedly lobbed into Poland. He has no real comment on that because it's just breaking, but we are certain more money can go to Ukraine.
Do you expect the omnibus to include another Ukraine supplemental spending?
I would hope it does, and I'd hope we get bipartisan support.
More money,
One more.
Republicans
Yes.
vote for it too.
Peter Schumer, there are reports crossing now that pairs that Russian missiles crossed into NATO member Poland. Do you have any comments on that?
I can't give comments now because I don't know the details.
There you go. No details, but more money for Ukraine. Yes, I hope there's more of it, and I hope the Russians support it as well. So the endless war will continue, no doubt, and we'll see if we get any details about who's ultimately behind it. But of course, until then, let's check and see what Biden is doing. Biden came back from the trip to Bali, Indonesia, and he was over there hobnobbing with some world leaders, and he was trying to, project American strength to the Chinese and do some other things. But it didn't really work out all that well because Biden missed dinner. Fox News' Ducey reports that he was supposed to attend a supper with a bunch of other G20 world leaders, but for some reason he had to turn in early, call it a lid.
Breaking news would be that President Biden is missing the G20 leaders' dinner. He is supposed to be at a supper right now, 8:10 in the evening here in Bali, Indonesia, with everybody that flew in. If you're the U.S. president, you spent basically 2 days flying to get here for a dinner like this. You got MBS there, you got Trudeau there. She is also there if anything was left on the table. Yesterday, we did hear President Biden tell us that he had a cold, and he has tested negative for COVID, despite the Cambodian leader from our last stop being positive now. But we do not know exactly what is going on with the president. They called an early lid. So we will keep you posted on what exactly is going on with.
It's okay, Peter. Nobody knows what's going on with the president. Not even the president. So we're all wondering what the heck happened over there. We also see this clip is spreading around on Twitter. It's gone viral. We see several different political figures who are walking, and apparently they're wearing some interesting outfits. People are criticizing Trudeau. People are criticizing Biden about this outfit. Some people calling it a Mao outfit or something like that. Now, I'm not a cultural connoisseur. I don't know. I'm not a sophisticated person in this arena. I'm just me. But I'm more concerned about how Biden's walking and how people are sort of watching where they're walking next to Biden. Here's what it looks like. All right, so we'll turn the volume down just a little bit. And you can see Biden and Trudeau are walking. And they're sort of keeping distance from him. Don't knock him over. Now, it's also an interesting outfit, of course, as you can see. And here it is again. Boy, looks a little unstable there on his feet. Yikes. Okay, so that is our elected class, our elite figures who are governing us hard and for our own good, who are congregating, taking pictures, and giving speeches too. Very strange. Watch it. Watch as he sort of turns this corner. Just watch his little. He's not that steady. What is that? I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's a little strange. I think it's a little strange. All right. Now we've been critical of Biden for a long time. It's amazing to me that he keeps going. But anyways, my friend, that clip is getting a lot of attention. This clip is also getting a lot of attention. While the fictional world leaders congregate and pretend like they're governing us, the real people behind the scenes who are actually making things happen, like Klaus Schwab, are plotting their transition for all of us, whether you like it or not, whether you voted for it or, in this case, didn't vote for it. A lot of people are planning for your future.
Of course, if we look at all the challenges, we can speak about a multi-crisis, an economic, a political, a social, an ecological, an institutional crisis. But actually,
who created those?
What we have to confront is a deep, systemic, and structural restructuring. Of our world.
Klaus Schwab is going to restructure our world.
And this will take some time.
And
the world will look differently.
It's going to look different.
After we have gone through this transition process.
After we've gone through the transition process that none of us voted for, that Klaus Schwab and his goons at the World Economic Forum that control, as we've estimated here, potentially as much GDP power as China or even arguably the United States. Okay, the World Economic Forum is sort of this big club of all the mega corporations. You got to make a certain amount of money in order to be a part of it. And if you add all that money up, if you translated that to GDP, you could say that the World Economic Forum was analogous literally to China. We did the math here about a year ago on the show. And now he is speaking from Indonesia about this great transition that we're all going to be shoved through.
Politically, the driving forces for this political transformation, of course, is the transition into a multipolar world, which has a tendency to make our world much more fragmented. And for these reasons, events like this one, the G20, and so on, are the very important connectors to avoid a too great segmentation.
Saying that the world is going to go into greater division when the United States is less unipolar, okay, when the world is more multipolar. In other words, when the United States has less of a role to play on the global arena, right? Elevate China, elevate some of these other entities to create a multipolar world rather than a one-polar world. And a lot of people are talking about this, including people like Peter Zeihan and Balaji Srinivasan. They've all sort of had different varying theses that the United States is part of the geoeconomic sort of restructuring will pull back. And we'll see how that goes. But they are plotting and planning a giant transition for us, whether we like it or not. And we all have to wait and see if we can learn anything more about the Russian missile attack alleged on Poland. We don't know, but we will, of course, continue to follow the story. Thank you for joining us as we do. Thank you for hitting that like button and subscribing wherever it is you are watching this. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.